I know it's here somewhere. Finally. Oh, it's time for the doctor. You're listening to Dr. Bill, the computer curmudgeon. Take it away, Doctor.
Well, it's that time again, and the doctor is in. It's time once again for Dr. Bill, the computer curmudgeon. Yes, indeed. We're here again. Some are going, oh no. Others are like, I'm down with that. Oh well. One day we shall achieve world domination. Perhaps not today. At any rate, we are proud members of the Tech Podcast Network, techpodcast.com. If it's tech, it's right here on Dr. Bill, the Computer Curmudgeon. We are also proud members of the International Association of Internet Broadcasters. Yes. So, we have a show for you today, which is good because you came for a show. So, that works. Anyway, I bonked my table, which bonked my camera. Sorry about that. I'll try to do better. Anyway, first item, YouTube responds. They have new content management. YouTubers were upset over the last few months, shall we say, that YouTube had changed its comments management system in ways that YouTubers thought were not useful. One of the requirements is that people who comment have to have YouTube/Google Plus accounts. Well, I kind of understand that, in that a lot of people want to comment on YouTube videos and may not be using Google Plus, and so it's a way to get them to use Google Plus. And therein lies the problem. People are like, dude, why should I have to be part of Google Plus if I just want to comment on a video? So what they did is they launched a new tool for managing comments for video creators like moi. YouTube, let's see what they say about it. Making faces doesn't help me find it, but it's something to look at while I'm doing it. Just saying. YouTubers weren't all happy about the change to the company announced today. It has fast-tracked the development of a new content management page to let you see, respond to, and moderate your comments all in one place. This change essentially brings back the old YouTube inbox. Video owners can now scan their comments, remove offensive ones, flag comments for spam, or as spam, probably it should say, and give comments a thumbs up. The new comments inbox is divided into areas for published comments, pending comments, and those marked as spam. So there you go. I don't do a lot with such things because if you want to comment, comment. I don't automatically have them published. I look at them and to be able to approve them because I don't want people being nasty. I want to have a clean channel that people can look at and go, oh, I can let my kiddies watch this. Particularly when they have a jolly person doing the tech news. Indeed. Okay, so I posted an article, and let me preface it by saying this. I have received criticism, speaking of emails and comments and spam, not spam in this case, but comments, from folks who said, Dr. Bill, your blog is not really a blog, it's just an aggregation of links to other, posts of other people. Yeah, That was my original idea. I wanted a place where I could capture all the things that was of interest to me, and then be able to do this video netcast and comment on those things that I found. And so why rewrite the article if they've already got the article? I just paste the article. But I understand the criticism, and I've been giving it some thought. And so I've decided to try to do more, shall we say, opinion pieces. Things that are actually my thoughts. Yes, Fred, I know that's dangerous, but I think the audience can handle it. Maybe. Anyway, so this is one of my opinion pieces. Why I am pro net neutrality. Now, I won't go into a long definition of net neutrality because I kind of cover it in the article here, but I want to share it with you because I think it will perhaps give insight and light into this controversial thing called net neutrality. A court decision this week has a lot of people concerned about whether net neutrality is dead. I'm pretty concerned as well. This whole situation got me thinking about the issue of net neutrality. A lot of people don't understand what net neutrality is, so let's talk about it, shall we? Think of net neutrality this way. The interstate highway system, believe it or not, was originally set up to provide the federal government open lanes for military equipment to be transported when within the country in case of an attack from the outside that required us to defend our cities. I know this sounds crazy to most folks who drive our interstate highway system and don't think a thing about the military aspect. Some might even say that the military side of the equation was put in place to justify the expense, originally, of creating a large interstate highway system. And there may be some truth to that thought. True enough. Politicians are experts at coming up with ways to justify getting large amounts of money for pet projects. Yes, indeed. But putting that aside, I think that we can all agree that the interstate highway system has been a benefit to the citizens of the United States. Why? Because when it's time for you to travel on your vacation, let's say down to Disney World in Florida, you don't think anything about jumping into your car and simply driving south. You have nice open highways that are convenient and allow you to travel inexpensively without paying any tolls. Now, there are highways within our country that are privately developed and privately owned, and the owners of these roads charge a toll. The idea is that toll roads provide quality roads that quickly connect things from point A to point B. And since they're privately owned or in some way subsidized by a private entity, we should pay them for developing the road, for keeping them up. And that's fine. If I choose to use a toll road, for convenience sake, for instance, that's my choice, and I can spend my money to do so. However, it is nice to be able to use the federal interstate highway system to go from that same point A to point B, perhaps having to go a little bit around in some situations. That's the advantage sometimes of toll roads. But by using it, I have the option of a free trip, not counting wear and tear on my car and gas prices, of course. You know, all things being equal. So why all this talk about interstate highways? Well, the internet has been called the information superhighway. And indirectly, that's why Al Gore once claimed to have taken the initiative to create the internet. End quotes. You see, his father was instrumental in creating the federal interstate highway system. He championed it. Al Gore, in somewhat the same way, maybe stretching it a bit, was actually claiming to have championed the information superhighway, which we call the internet. Now, he did stick his foot in his mouth when he made the statement, "I took advantage the initiative to create the internet. I don't believe his father would have claimed to have created superhighways. He may be wrong about that. He was a politician, after all. The point is that the federal government did create the superhighway system, and any one of us can use it freely. In the same way, the internet is open for all to use and drive on, metaphor there, as we see fit. No one is charging us extra for a certain part of the internet while not using another part of the internet. It's all free and open, at least now, today. If I want to create a website or a service or use the internet to deliver it, that's my business. I don't have to pay anybody any more than anyone else to put my business or video or audio or website, such as this very video, whatever, on the internet. The concept is the essence of net neutrality, that the internet should be free and open to all, just like the superhighway system in the United States is open for anyone to drive their car, their truck, and in the process perhaps even make a little money, such as truck drivers do on our highway system. So this is the reason that I am for net neutrality. I hope this recent court case doesn't stop the innovation, the creativity, the openness of our information superhighway. That would be tragic. And it would restrict not just the flow of ideas, such as this show, but, watch it, Fred, but the innovation that I'm sure will continue as our linked information society continues to innovate in the internet space. Meaning not space like space, the final frontier, or the space between my ears. No, I'm talking about the internet space world of things. Anyway, hopefully you found that interesting. As opinion pieces go, it is my opinion. I express it freely, as I am wont to do. You may disagree. You may say we need to have people charging for access to the internet because they need to make money. I think there's ways to make money other than restricting my access to bandwidth. Just saying. All right. Excuse me. Sometimes you get a little tickly, something caught in your throat, and it sounds particularly rough, and with such a cool cosmic microphone as I have now, where you can hear the clarity of my cough. Yeah. Okay. Next item, Google's glucose monitor in a contact lens. This was also announced this week. Google has started working on a smart contact lens that monitors glucose levels within the wearer's human tears, or more precisely, the moisture of your eye. It checks your eye for your sugar level, glucose. The idea being that wearers of contact lenses, which also happen to be diabetics, can monitor their blood sugar at all times. An interesting idea, but is it practical? One thing that Google promised in their announcement on Thursday was that the data received concerning blood glucose levels would never be stored on Google servers. I find that really interesting that they're already telling the public that particular piece of information because the public is concerned about their health information being made available on Google servers, privacy concerns. At least Google's thinking about the issue and is responding to that problem right up front. Smart of them. Keep in mind that this device is a prototype. It contains a sensor that measures glucose levels in the tears and moisture through a tiny pinhole in the lens that lets tear fluid be analyzed by the device. Google says the device can take glucose level readings once every second. Now, I'm not sure anybody needs to know what their blood sugar level is once every second. It seems that would give you an opportunity to obsess about it. But the technology involved is pretty cool. Google is a technology company and prides itself on innovation. I suspect they're working with this device, not so much, pretty much just to prove they can do it, as to provide a useful service. Although I do believe that health monitoring is one of the next great frontiers for computer technology. In fact, there were a lot of health and fitness devices demonstrated at this year's CES. So I think we have a lot to look forward to in that space. Speaking of space, maybe it won't be too long before we have really accurate, really cool, and useful Star Trek-style tricorders. Yes. So this was another attempt, by the way, this article, not to just get across the news of the week, but to do it from my own personal perspective. So let me know what you think about that. Was that useful? Hearing it from my perspective, or would you rather me just do links to other articles? I actually would be very interested in hearing your comments concerning that. Okay, Google purchases Nest. Now, we're not talking about a giant nest of some bird species. We're talking about the company Nest. Nest is a creator of various home automation devices. Matter of fact, here in the article, I say, Nest products do look very cool. They actually bring to mind the design style of Apple. These devices appeal to high-end homeowners that want a cool factor in their household automation devices. In fact, these devices can be controlled by a user's iPad or Android tablet, which again is a pretty cool idea. Some pundits are asking the question, do we really want Google to have access to data from our homes through these devices? There's that privacy concern again. I'm not sure what Google would do with information on what temperature I keep my home, or how often I turn my lights on and off, but then I'm not Google. I'm sure they could come up with a way to monetize it if they put their mind to it, which you know they would. And I'm sure my buddy at work that I call Jim Bob, not his real name, would remind me that Google is the devil. And I think he overstates it a bit. And that one should never let Google monitor anything, much less your house. So I'm sure he would find their purchase of Nest very troubling indeed. He's quite an odd character, but then so am I. Yeah. This could begin Google's entry into what some pundits are calling the Internet of Things. Pundits have very interesting ways of expressing themselves, apparently. The idea being that having your toaster or your microwave or your refrigerator connected to the internet can be useful. Also quite strange. Okay, so I understand that having your refrigerator report via email that you need to buy some milk on the way home could be handy. And maybe a little creepy, too. Welcome to the future. Indeed. Having an internet-connected house would provide a lot of neat information to the homeowner, but I am a little concerned about how that information could potentially be hacked and used. I mean, for instance, if you were able to hack into someone's house and find out they're not currently home, then you could break in and steal their cool toys, geeky things. Not that I would do that, but gotta admit, be tempting to some folks, right? Okay, next item. 4K 3D and other acronyms. It's the title of my little article here. Another opinion piece. Okay? That's why I'm asking you to comment, tell me, send me email. Dr. Bill at drbillbailey.net, as it says there on the screen, for instance. Or you can just comment using the YouTube comment section below, if you'd like. Anyway, one thing we saw a lot of at CES this year was the introduction of much more affordable 4K television sets. Some of you may be asking, what's a 4K television set? Well, basically, think of it as a television system that allows viewing of 4 times the information of a standard, well, maybe not so standard, 1080p television system. Some people have HD TVs that are 720, but most these days are 1080. But imagine 4 times higher resolution. That's much denser pixels, to the point that on some screens with a 4K screen, you can't even see any pixels. I mean, if you get up close, it's like, where are they? So, that's pretty cool. Now, for all intents and purposes, 3D didn't make it as a popular TV option. Now, before I get a lot of letters about how great 3D is and how much you love your 3D system, hold on. Okay? You have to agree that 3D is, not catching on like they thought it would, right? As a matter of fact, Wevideo has announced that their new lineup of TVs for 2014 don't even include any 3D systems. That tells you something, right? Now, call me old-fashioned. Thank you, Fred. He's quite quick about these things, isn't he? Yes, indeed, call me old-fashioned, but when I go to see a movie these days, I specifically go to the 2D movie and skip paying extra money for the 3D movie. The 2D version is much clearer, to my eyes, easier to watch, and I don't really feel that I've lost anything by missing the 3D version. It's just not that big a deal, and it's way more expensive, as a matter of fact. Maybe it's because I'm used to 2D, being an old geezer. Or maybe my mind just allows me to conceive of what I'm seeing as 3D, a 3D spatial environment, without any visual trickery to fool my brain into thinking I'm seeing an actual 3D image. Yes. Either way, expect 3D to be totally phased out by other manufacturers as well. And look at it this way. Your current 3D HD television will be a collector's item. Although when it comes to technology, that's not necessarily a good thing. You know what I'm saying? Okay. All right, here's an article that's more my traditional style of article, okay? Where it's just news aggregation. Okay, so I'm getting you into the heart, into the woodwork, so to speak, of the show, so that you can comment and help me to figure out the best approach to things when it comes to the show and it comes to writing the blog. Okay? This article is about a cool new open source leather-bound laptop computer. It's called Novena. Okay? But it's not manufactured by a manufacturer. Okay? It is actually built by you from parts that you acquire. You can download the plans, which gives you a parts list. You go out and buy the parts. You build it yourself. Which means you got to be pretty much a electronics geek to be able to do all the various things you need to do to put it together. But it's a cool idea. So, it basically is a laptop with a leather cover, like a book, a leather cover, that combines all these various parts, including a quad-core, it's a Freescale IMX6 quad-core ARM CPU. And the build took more than 1.5 years to complete. Dude. But anyway, it was built by Sean Cross and Bunny Huang. I suppose that's how you pronounce Huang. Huang. If not, I'm sorry. I did not mean to offend. But Project Novena is truly a wonder to behold. We've seen a lot of DIY desktops and case mods, but laptops, because of their smaller form factor and non-standard parts, are very rare indeed. True. And this is interesting. So I've got a picture, which I'll put up here. It's geeky looking because of the transparency of the internal case and the leather. You can't see so much of the leather there in the picture, but it's pretty cool. It's a neat idea. So I kind of like it. Okay? So, whoa! Time for the Geek Software of the Week according to Fred. Fred knows these things. I'm actually pointing to the angry bird. And I've got the pig over here behind me. Not Fred. Fred, of course, is virtual. He's my imaginary friend. Say hi, Fred. He always does that. He's quite consistent. You know, there's an old saying, if you can't be competent, be consistent. Fred is both. Got to be nice to Fred, because he'll put up things that I don't want him to put up otherwise. Anyway, the Geek Software of the Week this week is Free File Shredder, which by its name tells you what? It's free! And it shreds files! Yes. We should all be concerned about security. That pretty much goes without saying. However, every so often, someone has to say it. So be concerned about security. There, I said it. I know, I come up with these silly things, but they're silly, and I like silliness, and that's part of the whole purpose of this show, is to spread silliness throughout the universe. Just saying. Anyway, this week's Geek Software of the Week provides you with an option of not just deleting a file, which, as we all know, doesn't really delete the file. What? You say? What? You didn't know that when you delete a file, you really aren't actually deleting the file? Well, now you do know that. All you're really doing is marking your file allocation table, which is the FAT table. Has nothing to do with size. Has to do with file allocation. It marks it as marked for deletion, which means all the data is still there. That's why you can retrieve it using, you know, an eraser programs. But let's say you wanted to delete a file and it truly, completely be deleted and unrecoverable. Well, now you can with Free File Shredder. You can choose the level of, you know, how much you want to encrypt the deleted bits of the file, etc. with this system. And you can permanently shred the file and make it totally irrecoverable. Yes. In File Shredder, you can choose between 5 different shredding algorithms, each one gradually stronger than the previous one. So you can really get your geeky shredding on with it. Indeed. Okay, last item of the week is a report on my Chromebook experiment. I'm experimenting on myself. It's not quite as harsh as it sounds. What I decided to do is try to use my new Chromebook as my primary computer. And here's what I said in my report. So a lot of you have been waiting patiently for me to report on my experiment and how it's going with the new Google Chromebook. Well, I can report great success. I find my new Google Chromebook, which by the way is an Acer C720P, you knew that if you've been watching the show, to be very light, small, easy to use, and very, very fast. I've already talked about how you can open it and it just goes boop and comes right on. I mean, that in itself is just so freeing. It's good for your soul. In actual terms of use, though, since a lot of what I do is already in the cloud, because I'm a cloud engineer, cloud computing is so fluffy, kind of like my beard. Anyway, it's really no different than using a Chrome browser on my regular computer. And that makes sense. It is, after all, Chrome, the operating system, and Chrome, the browser, and they are pretty much the same. So, since I use Chrome browser exclusively on all my computers, with a few minor exceptions, such as I do use Mozilla Firefox to view certain RSS feeds, because I like the way it displays the feeds, and Google, this is something that irritates me about Google, Google Chrome does not display RSS feeds except as raw XML. What good is that? Anyway. Now, yes, there are tools available as Chrome plugins that allow me to view those feeds. In fact, I use one called SliekRSS. It works really well, and I like it. Sometimes I just want to be able to go to an RSS feed and see it displayed without having to, you know, go into SliekRSS and connect to the feed and put it in my list of feeds and then refresh and then finally see it. You know what I'm saying? It's just easier to go click and there it is. And if I want to use it, fine. If I don't, fine. You know what I'm saying? But anyway. What I was most concerned about when using a Chromebook was my ability to be able to connect to other computers that I need to manage. I mean, I am a server engineer at a local hospital, and I need to manage computers. I have two options to do this, which I can use for different situations. One is to use the Google Chrome Remote Desktop, which can be set up very easily on computers that you own. In other words, I wouldn't do this at work. Do you hear that, folks, at work? I wouldn't do that at work. Just saying. I want to make sure my security coordinator understands that. Anyway, true. So like for instance, your home PC, you can connect to it, you can display the console of that PC, and that's all well and good. Another option that I would use at work is VMware View, which has an HTML5 View client that I can use with my Chrome browser very easily and connect to my View session at work, which is handy because that View computer, that session that I've got, is a virtual computer that is very, very powerful and is running Windows version 7. It's at work. They haven't gone to 8 yet, so there you go. Anyway, now you might say that it's cheating for me to use a Chromebook to connect to a full-blown Windows computer and do certain things that I need to do at work. Well, maybe. Okay. But that's the nature of the technology at this point. I have to work within what I have to work with, which is hard to say. That's why I stumbled over it. Okay. So you might say that I'm not really using my Chromebook to do anything I need to do, but within the parameters of my experiment, I think I'm doing pretty well. Okay, so don't give me a hard time. The question was, in fact, can I use a Chromebook for the majority of my computing and get the job done? To me, the answer is yes. Okay? You may quibble with my belief that I can do all my computing via my Chromebook. That's entirely up to you. I'm free and open about such things. But for me, I find that I can function quite nicely using the Chromebook as a primary computer. Notice I said a primary computer, not the primary computer. That's a fine distinction, indeed. But one that I feel that I need to make. A lot of what I do requires a lot of computing power. For instance, this very show. I shoot it, and then I edit it, and then I have to render it in various formats, right? That takes a lot of computing power. And there's just not, it's not that so much that there's not the power on the Chromebook to do it, but the applications just aren't there to do it. Now, there is an application to do video editing through Chrome. It's called Wevideo, and it's okay. Maybe I'm not quite as excited about Wevideo as I would be because I'm such a big fan of the video editor that I use, which is AVS Editor, AVS Video Editor. It rocks, okay? And I'm used to using it, and I had all my little tweaks in there that I like to use, and so I use it on a computer other than my Chromebook, obviously, because it would have to have Windows, right? And the computer that I'm using to do AVS is a monster computer that I built myself. So there you go. So anyway, AVS rocks. So I use it. But again, other than that, most of what I do, I can do with a Chromebook. At least, that's my findings so far. So I hope you enjoyed this edition of Dr. Bill the Computer Curmudgeon. Let me know what you think about the whole using my own thought processes to write articles of interest as opposed to just aggregating news. That would help me out. And remember, until next time, that the doctor is out of here. Dr. Bill the Computer Curmudgeon is a production of DrBillBailey.net with all the honors, rights, and privileges thereunto appertaining.